Ongoing conflicts with other communities persist due to the perceived lack of assimilation of Chinese individuals residing in the United States, as they maintain a steadfast commitment to their distinct cultural heritage.
Chinese immigrants have persistently endured hatred, prejudice, abuse, and persecution from various racial and communal groups. It is my honest aspiration that American society revitalizes an atmosphere founded on respect for diverse cultures and celebrates the richness of its multicultural fabric.
However, as far as prostitution and opium are concerned, there was actually such an aspect of the story which is very natural when you look at it.
After the gold rush, only young male workers were brought to the United States from China, so the gender ratio in Chinese immigrant communities was terribly imbalanced. In 1850, the Chinese sex ratio in San Francisco was 4,000 males and only 7 females. So even though a large number of women were brought to the United States through various job advertisements, until 1855, the sex ratio of Chinese men and women in the United States was overwhelmingly male, with 1 female to 50 males. In addition, because they were continuously subjected to harsh physical labor, Chinese men at the time were very easily seduced by opium and prostitution.
The behavior of the Chinese was put up as a pretext for terrorism against them, but in reality, it was a turf war no matter what. Since the Chinese laborers took jobs even at very cheap unit cost, they were a thorn in the side of white workers, who inflicted terror wherever they came across them.
American laws did not protect the Chinese either. In the end, protests by American voters against the Chinese became too loud and social problems, such as terrorism, became too pervasive, so politicians created the Page Act and Chinese Exclusion Act. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed by the Senate, the House, and the White House at great speed within a month of being motioned. Since then, Chinese immigration should have stopped, but later hundreds of thousands of Chinese immigrants entered through Angel Island. Broadly speaking, this was possible for 2 reasons. The first was the 1898 case of Wong Kim Ark versus the United States federal government. Wong was born in San Francisco in 1873, the son of Chinese immigrants.
His parents returned to China permanently after the terrorism against the Chinese became too serious. Wong, who was left alone in America as an adolescent, later became a chef. After becoming an adult in 1895, he visited China to see his parents. When he came back, immigration denied him re-entry.
According to the Chinese Exclusion Act enacted in 1882, the Immigration Service claimed that Chinese people could not enter the United States because they were not American citizens and could not become American citizens. Wong immediately filed suit. The basis for the lawsuit was the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which adopted the principle of territorial privilege for jurisdiction, granting citizenship to anyone born in the United States. The trial lasted 3 years and went all the way to the Supreme Court. However, in 1889, the final judgment came. The Supreme Court ruled in Wong's favor, 6-2. With this ruling, the principle that those born in the United States are unconditional U.S. citizens, regardless of nationality, race, or parents' immigration status, was clearly confirmed. Citizens have been able to invite direct family members regardless of race, ethnicity, or original nationality. So Chinese immigration could continue to be maintained. An event occurred in 1906 that may have increased the number of Chinese immigrants more than the Wong Kim trial. This event was the Great San Francisco Earthquake. The San Francisco's earthquake destroyed and burnt all birth records kept by the state of California. At that time, many Chinese people living in the United States were elated. Now, they claim that they were born in the United States. Many Chinese people claimed to be natural-born citizens. So, a bunch of white lawyers wanting to get a sizable fortune or profit rushed in and encouraged the Chinese to sue. As a result, with the help of numerous white lawyers, many Chinese citizens were born in the Great San Francisco Earthquake.
Citizens thus began to invite family members from China, but often they were not actual family members. There have been many cases in which Chinese people living in the United States are paid by Chinese people who want to immigrate to the United States to invite them disguised as family members. So documents are faked. A paper son means a blood relationship on paper. Paper sons, paper daughters, etc. suddenly started crossing the Pacific Ocean. Fake certificates of kinship with Chinese citizens who hold U.S. citizenship were sold at very high prices in China. Those who did not have enough money signed slave documents saying that they would go to the United States and earn money to pay back their debt.
In any case, it was the Japanese who filled the vacancy of legal Chinese employment immigration, which had been completely corrupted by the Chinese Exclusion Act. The first group of Japanese immigrants to the United States left Japan in 1885 after the Meiji Restoration and came to Hawaii as workers in the sugarcane fields. Over the next 10 years, as many as 120,000 Japanese immigrated to the United States. And after the first contract period, Japanese people entered the U.S. mainland from Hawaii. The result after Japanese immigrants entered the U.S. mainland was exactly the same as that of Chinese immigrants. Due to the cheap labor cost, white workers were severely affected, and the Japanese lived in their own world like the Chinese without trying to assimilate into American society. It was very inappropriate and threatening in the eyes of Americans for Japanese people to go to temples instead of churches, and they were similarly criticized for not contributing to the American economy because they remitted a large part of their earnings back to their home countries. In the end, the United States created an immigration checkpoint at Angel Island, and it was the federal government's intention to somehow block the entry of people by putting various restrictions on whether or not they were related, even if it was a direct family member of a citizen. Of course, Chinese immigrants were restricted as the first priority, and Japanese immigrants were ranked second. Then, in 1942, the immigration law was completely changed. For European countries, an immigration gate was opened with a quota system of certain percentages, such as the American population of the country, how many currently lived in the United States, and so on. So, if there were 10 million Irish Americans, 3% or up to 300,000 could come in a year, but Asians were completely banned from immigrating. In fact, this law was made to exclude Japanese people, who accounted for the majority of Asian immigrants at the time, but it was not called the Japanese Exclusion Act. The notorious Angel Island Immigration Office was established in 1910 and closed in 1943. Due to the Japanese Army's attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan became a completely hostile country, so Japanese citizens could not even invite immediate family. The Angel Island Immigration Office had nothing to do. Later, the US government became concerned that Japanese Americans could engage in espionage. So, by the end of World War II, the US government had forcibly imprisoned more than 110,000 Japanese Americans, including second and third generation Japanese born in the United States, in concentration camps.
The immigration history of Koreans is shorter than that of China or Japan. In 2019, the number of Korean Americans, that is, naturalized Koreans in the United States, as counted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, was 1.48 million U.S. citizens. This number ranks fifth among Asian Americans, behind Chinese, Indians, Filipinos, and Vietnamese people. Among these, a group that is receiving special attention these days is Indian Americans. They number 4 million, which is a lot. They far outperform other Asian Americans in terms of income and education, where they are near the top, including whites. In IT companies such as Google and Microsoft, and in the medical field, the proportion of Indians is overwhelmingly high. There are a huge number of Indian doctors among the American physician community.
Indians are said to be the second most powerful minority in the United States after Jewish people. Asians, including Koreans as well as Indians, are contributing greatly to the development of the U.S. economy, including the fourth industry centered on Silicon Valley. An additional score on college entrance exams given to blacks or Hispanics is called affirmative action. The inconvenient truth that if such a system is abolished, most of the students entering prestigious American universities will be Asians is on everyone's lips. However, Asians also have limitations that their political position is very weak. Whites, blacks, and Hispanics are very homogeneous racially, linguistically, and religiously. Due to such factors, they organize together relatively well. However, Asians have different ethnicities, languages, and religions. Asians are too heterogeneous and disunified because each country is different from the others. However, in the eyes of other races living in the United States, Asians all look the same.
However, each Asian thinks and acts differently from others, which is an issue homework that American Asians living in the United States must solve together. In order to improve the political power of Asians, it is necessary to confirm, exhibit, and express Asians' homogeneity and unity. Thank you for watching the video, The History of Asian Immigration, Part 3, provided by History and Current Events. Gina, Bella, and Tony have contributed so far as narrators. Thank you.